Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, a show where you come for your regular geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I'm delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond, DL. What up?
Hello, alligator.
Hello. Hello, DL.
What is it? Alligator crocodile?
See you later, alligator.
How are you doing, mate?
Mate, I'm good. I'm loving the looking forward.
Looking forward.
You're throwing out little Easter eggs
Oh,
already.
it's
I
Easter
love
eggs,
it.
mate.
Yeah, this is terrible. This is almost as bad as the accent.
This
on the
is
show.
his accent in the show.
It probably is. That's why it's bad.
Work in a museum, eh?
How
Cheerio.
are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you doing?
How is your other personality that's apparently English?
He's good, I guess.
He's good.
Sounds pretty chipper.
You don't know. They don't really communicate.
Exactly. That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, he does sound chipper. He sounds like he's loving this weather. This is very British weather.
What is his phrase he used? I fucked it up. He's like, alligator?
Later, alligator.
Latest gators.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
Latest gators.
Nothing like any English person would probably ever actually say. But
No one you would hang out with, but I'm telling you, there's a nerdy dude out there that sounds like this. I've seen him. I've heard him somewhere.
I would love to meet that person. Wouldn't that be great?
I don't know if he would. He's pretty funny, though.
Just to give you a heads up, there will be time codes in the description. We usually banter a little bit at the beginning if you haven't noticed.
I don't know.
People apparently like that. But the timed codes, if you want to skip to the main topic, which this week we've already pretty much given away, is Moon Knight.
You've read the description by
exactly,
this point,
by
so
now
they
you
already
surely
know.
Yeah, surely you know this. Otherwise, if you want to just kick in with some of the news, some of the things we've been up to, stick around.
Yep.
What have you been up to, DL?
Well, yeah, I finished Moon Knight because we had to do it.
Because we had to.
No, I wanted to, but I watched like 3 episodes in a week, which
really?
I normally wouldn't have done.
My brother did the same thing. Him and his wife, they weren't going to watch it, and then they sat down to watch one and just powered through it.
See, it wasn't that easy to power through for me because it was so
Interesting.
like heady and I don't know, aggressive. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about
Yeah,
it. The ebb and flow of it's quite difficult to get used to. It's quite stop-start.
Which is, I liked that about it, but it wasn't as bingey for me.
Same.
I kind of wanted to like sit on an episode after I'd seen it. What else have I done, man? I finished Outer Range, which is
yeah?
that.
You've been talking about that.
Yeah, what's his name? I keep forgetting.
I saw a great quote from Josh Brolin, who you're trying to remember.
Brolin, yeah.
Who basically said he didn't want to go back to do TV stuff, but if he was going to, he would only do it for a script that was like primo, like excellente. So this must be good.
It's a good script. It's a good like character-driven drama with like some side, and it's Western, so I like it. And so like I'm obviously gonna watch it. Doesn't mean it's good, but I'm gonna watch it. But it's like it's time tropey, but so far it's like an interesting take on the way they do time tropey stuff. Just because it's interesting and it's got a different spin doesn't mean that it will like eventually be substantive. Like I think it probably will end up being the classic.
Yeah.
They all end the same, don't they?
I feel like they just they have such good ideas, the writers, and then it comes to like the finale and they go, how do we do something different, and just do what we did last time.
Exactly. So like it's interesting so far. Like the beginnings have been not so tropey, but I have a feeling it will have a tropey end. But it's not really grounded in that, right? It's mostly grounded in the implications of this crazy
Because of the implications.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like the implications of time travel or whatever is happening.
With us on the time travel.
I've kind of spoiled a bit, but if you watch the trailer, it's pretty obvious that some weird shit's happening.
Okay.
That part is like you stay very close to the characters and how it's affecting them.
Sure.
So there are good characters and it's casted well and I'm enjoying it.
Speaking of time travel, timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah.
Me and the partner, I kind of semi-forced her to start watching the first season of Loki. I don't know what it was. I think it was us talking about it last week in line with Doctor Strange, and we were ranking the parts of Phase 4 that have happened.
It's high value.
And we were talking about Loki, and I was like, I really want to.
No, Loki was good. The more I watch other shit, I'm like, yeah, Loki was pretty good.
It's pretty dope. I've maybe at the end of this episode, I'd quite like to talk to you about what your favorite parts of Phase 4 have been, because smash hit surprise, for me at least, probably some of the TV stuff's way up there.
Yeah, well, I mean, not that surprising given the movies we've seen.
Well,
but also the TV shows are just easier form, I think, these days. Like, to make good stuff, you get more time.
You do, and you get more time to tell the story as well, which makes sense. But the way the MCU has been so progressive and so positive in their movie making, it's almost a bit of a shame the movies are falling down, because at the minute I think a lot of people feel that they're holding up cinemas a little bit.
Yeah. Look, I think I agree. They're not. It's not just because they're on TV. It's because they're good. Because you've seen some that are bad that are on TV.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that are Marvel. So I totally agree, man. I'm a big fan, and I just think one of the other things I watched this week, Crimson Peak.
No, I never heard of it. What is it?
It's Tom Holland, or not Tom Holland. The other Tom
Hardy?
No.
Was it?
We're doing
Hanks?
the joke. We're doing the joke.
Yeah, we are.
We're doing the joke that Tom Holland does.
Yeah.
What is his fucking name?
Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston.
That's such a meme. But is that Chris Pratt? He does that with?
Yeah.
You do the same thing except with Chris's.
Yeah, I do it with everyone really. I've just got no brain. Anyway, he's the lead in Crimson Peak. It's Guillermo del Toro.
Okay.
It's like a horror.
Is it a new movie?
No, it was like 2009 or something.
Oh, really?
It was like far enough back where I was like, huh? How have I not heard of this?
How have I not heard of it?
And it's like obviously not his best one, but it's definitely a good movie.
2009, you say?
I think.
Can you
check
give
it
me
out.
A brief synopsis.
Yeah, it's a creepy kind of little horror movie.
Okay.
Suspense horror that
2015.
Okay, so not 2009, but anyway, pretty long ago.
Pretty far.
I haven't heard of it.
Pretty far back.
And it follows this this guy, this English entrepreneur from
Tom
old
Hiddleston.
money. Yeah, Tom Hiddleston, who comes from like this very very like old money family who's trying to reinvigorate his wealth, and he comes to America looking for.
He's interestingly third build in this. He's third build behind two people. I know Jessica Chastain. She's great, but Mia Wasikowska.
Yeah, I would say should be second build.
Never heard of her.
But
it does have Charlie Hunnam in it as well. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
And it's got
how weird, huh?
It's got the dude who's in The Dark Knight Rises. He's called Bern Gorman. He's in a bunch of stuff. He's the guy, you know the bit where Bane snaps the dude's neck? He's the guy who's Yeah. He's the other guy in the room at the time he's that guy. He's in so much stuff.
Okay. I don't know who you're talking about.
This has got so many people.
Dude, that's why I was shocked. And when
do you feel in control?
Who did you say? Charlie, the guy from
Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah, when I noticed that he was in it, I was like, huh? Like, because he was big by this point, and I still hadn't heard of the movie. But anyway, it's definitely worth a watch, and it's on Netflix right now.
Okay, I'm gonna send this to myself so I remember to watch it later. Yeah. That sounds good. It's a horror.
Yeah, I would say it's like, you know how all of Guillermo del Toro's movies like have tread a line of like even Pan's Labyrinth. That's him, right?
Yeah.
It treads a line of horror.
Pretty horror-y.
Yeah, this is like a little bit farther than that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like a little bit more horror-y than normal, but it's still, just as much like weird and cool colors and gothic.
He does like pretty cool like prosthetics and things. I really like.
There's all sorts of cool stuff in the design, like all his movies for sure.
So you're not going to tell me any more than it's a bit horror-y in Guillermo del Toro.
I don't want to. I think you'll honestly, the one complaint, it telegraphs a lot, so I don't want to telegraph even more than the movie already telegraphs.
Deal.
But it's good.
Deal.
How about you, man? What else have you been up to?
Well, outside of Loki season 1, we actually only watched one episode of that. I'm going to take your usual line. I've been so slammed. I've only really managed to catch up with. We've now finished season 1 of Stranger Things. I would have liked to have got through the first 3 seasons before the new one comes out. Don't think we're going to have time at this point.
When is it coming out?
A couple of days. I think it's the 26th of May, I think.
So
the same day as Maverick, so we can choose.
Oh, well. And the day before Obi-Wan, so...
I think I'm going to stick with Obi-Wan.
I saw like Obi-Wan on Disney Plus when I was trying to watch the end credits of Moon Knight because I forgot that there was any, or the post-credit scene. And I saw Obi-Wan, I was like, and made me realize, because I thought it was out, it made me realize I'm actually pretty damn excited for it.
It's going to be great. I am genuinely pumped for that.
Not a Star Wars guy as much as like others, but I am excited for you and Gregor.
I'm more excited for that than I am Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, that's...
I don't think that's a big revelation.
Fair.
And the other thing quickly I've been up to this week, I finally got back to reading a bit of comic book time. Comic book time. It's back, baby. It's an old one, and it's certainly one that I probably should have read in the past. I love the premise of this. So it's called Kingdom Come. It's by a dude called Mark Waid and Alex Ross, who's actually one of my favorite comic book artists. Just these weirdly hyper-realistic drawings. He gets almost like he gets like a model in and then will like sketch what he thinks like a superhero should look like from what the model looks like sometimes. Very interesting, very cool. Follow him on Twitter. I really like his stuff. What the premise of the story is, and it's one I think I've mentioned to you before. Essentially, we're a little bit in the future, so the superhero whatever genes have started to filter into society, and we're getting more and more superheroes. And what happens is
more and more naked models that he's sketching.
Yes, basically, yeah.
Yes, okay.
And what
Sorry,
happens?
I just had to.
We're not going back to your character who thinks everyone's naked. That's not a thing. And what happens is essentially the old heroes of the DC universe, your Supermans, your Batmans, etc., become a bit outmoded and about outdated. So people want their superheroes to be by the media. People want their superheroes to be more, maybe not aggressive, but more decisive. So, for example, the Joker. Batman keeps putting him in prison. Why doesn't he just kill him? Like, you get the question makes sense, right? Like, he's going to come out and kill a bunch more people. So why don't you just finish it? Batman's ethics stop him doing that. And the point
Moral
is
fiber.
Yeah, and the point is that these superheroes of new breed have got to the point whereby they've essentially murdered all the criminals. So what they're now doing is they're turning on each other, and the old guard have to come out of retirement to put them in check.
That's a pretty good concept. It is very similar to Jupiter's Rising, which, can I be honest, I'm kind of bummed that didn't get a second season.
No, I didn't like it.
I wanted to see what happened with the blonde guy.
Which was the blonde guy? I don't even remember.
The guy that was like...
The one who disappeared?
That everyone's like, oh, he's so bad, and he's disappeared. But I'm like, obviously, he's not that bad. Obviously, he discovered something.
Oh, because it was the brother, wasn't it, who was the bad guy?
The brother was the bad guy. That was obvious.
Go back and listen to our episode on Jupiter's Ascending.
Sorry.
Or don't, because that was a really bad season.
I thought it was okay.
Do you know what makes that episode even worse?
It was all right. The other one that we did the week before got renewed.
No, we did it. We did them together, I think. I think we did the two at the same time. I can't remember what the other one was.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
That would have been idiotic.
That was a bad week for us. Sorry, guys. Don't go back and listen to those episodes. They're terrible.
No, the episodes might have been fine. The content that we were watching.
Sorry, we were great.
Yeah,
Don't
we watched many bad
shows.
fucking movies, all right?
Look, bad movies are more fun. I'm hoping to get you to do one next week.
Oh,
Look,
no.
You know what? I'm stuck in a bit of a rut at the moment, and I'm going to throw this out there to our listeners.
Yes.
I would like some recommendations for TV shows. Different stuff. Don't just say Breaking Bad. Everyone knows that's a good show. Still haven't finished it.
Severance.
All right, come back to it. Yeah. Listeners, let me know your recommendations for good shows. You know the type of stuff we like. Superhero stuff, sci-fi stuff, whatever it might be. Just something with a good goddamn story. I'm probably going to pick up the Josh Brolin one you've been talking about.
Yeah, it's worth a look. Yeah.
Doesn't have to be brand new. Could be a little bit older. Spoke to a friend of the show, Andy, who's jumped on a couple of times. He told me about a show called Detroiters, which is a new comedy, which I haven't watched yet, and I'm probably going to try and pick up at some point. But yeah, we'd love to hear recommendations. DL, have you heard this week? This is the part of the show where we talk a little bit about some of the news that's been happening in our geeky spheres.
I don't think there was much this week.
There wasn't a lot, but there were a couple of tiny little nuggets in there.
Parched.
Tiny little nuggets in there just coming out. First and foremost, did you hear that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has officially wrapped? James Gunn posted a picture on Instagram with all the cast members confirming that the trilogy is officially finished, from his perspective.
Finally, for him, he barely...
Well, this is one I am genuinely excited for, and it's a little bit bittersweet because, like, I am pumped to see the film. Like, I want to know where their stories go, what happens with Gamora, etc., etc. Spoilers. But like I say, it's bittersweet because it's going to be sad losing that James Gunn-ness to the Marvel universe.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe he comes back.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Wondering.
He obviously loves a superhero movie. He's doing all sorts of shit.
Absolutely.
So you never know.
I reckon they just turn around and say, "What do you want? Like, which weird character?" That's what DC did. He was like, "I want to be Peacemaker," and they was like, "Fuck, cool, all right."
I mean, I'm just surprised that this wasn't finished already. For some reason, I thought it was.
No, they finished the Christmas special a little while ago. But this was the full Guardians 3. So when the holiday special, comes out, we'll have to do that because we did one previously on the Star Wars holiday special.
A lot of plugs here.
Which was bad. It was real bad.
Yes,
a lot of fun, though. Did you also hear this week, we got a couple of new trailers. First and foremost, we got a trailer for Westworld Season 4.
I did see that. Didn't watch it because I didn't want to be spoiled because I still haven't seen
Westworld.
3. I know you say it's bad, but surely something happened.
Have a watch, man. Like this this has actually piqued my interest. Like, I know I've been down on season 3 a bunch of times.
That's what I was saying. Like,
I was like, this is shit. But this has got me back feeling it, you know? I think it's got a date that it's coming out on the 6th of the 26th month of 2022. I don't know when that is. Maybe that's the American way of doing it.
Yeah.
But I guess it's teasing a lot of interesting character returns. People that maybe you should watch season 3 to find out why it's interesting they're there. No, I'm back on board for this. Like, the hype, I can feel the hype train. That's why I'm ready.
Well, I actually did finish all my shows, so I'm looking for something new, and I have HBO, so I can watch this.
Get on it, bro. Get on it.
Did you see Elizabeth Olsen kind of made it like odd time to complain about the MCU when your movie just came out?
What did she say?
She said, yeah, like it took me away from the physical ability to do certain jobs, as opposed to the mental ability.
Like what?
Like, what do you mean?
Like what?
I don't get why she had to add the physical ability that I thought were more aligned to the things I enjoyed as an audience member, meaning like shallow dig. I don't enjoy Marvel movies, right? And this is me being brutally honest. So I think she's just talking about how she was under contract and couldn't do like Lobster and a couple other pretty. Lobster. I guess that's a movie that was famous, won some things that she like aligned to really well. And to that I say, fair,
but
you took the paychecks.
One, she took the paycheck.
You could have canceled.
Two, she was the best part of this fucking movie. So,
now I think that like that's a little unfair of me to like give her shit for that because we want people to speak honestly. But like, yeah, it's just.
Well, I don't know how honest he was being, but Benedict Cumberbatch came out and said he wanted to do 10 more years as Doctor Strange.
Is that just so people will stop fucking asking him about it?
Probably,
like,
man.
I want 20.
Yeah. Give me all the fucking movies. I'll do them all.
Don't talk to me till I'm at 15. Again, because I want 20 more. You heard it here first.
I want to be a 70-year-old playing the same character doing the weird finger things.
Yeah. Did you know that Superbad 2 is only not happening because none of the cast want to do it?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's...
Judd Apatow said he's been trying to do it forever, and like no one else wants to do it.
I can imagine that though.
Yeah.
Like that's the type of film that you could imagine he's just busted out a script for, like immediately after the Return of McLovin.
Well, like they were like, he wanted to do one where he goes to college. Like Seth drops out and he goes to visit what's his name in college, and it could be funny, but not now. It's too late.
They've kind of outgrown it though.
Well, now it's way too late.
Yeah. Well, I mean, too fast, too super, too bad. It could happen.
Yes, but it would be like it couldn't be that storyline.
No,
like because Seth doesn't like none of those people. What's his name? Jonah Hill looks literally like
Jonah Hill is literally doing Scorsese movies. Yeah. He is going nowhere near that.
Why not though? Like, why hate that so much? It's your roots. It's a good movie. It's fucking funny.
Yeah, good point. I mean, maybe I wonder if they could do a version where they flipped it and they were like the dads almost. I think that could be a fun one. But the problem with that movie is that was lightning in a bottle. You got like a bunch of actors who were like right on the cusp of becoming big, but weren't quite there. Whereas now you'd have to give them like 10 million each just to join.
I don't know. I think that like really the only one that got big after that was like Jonah Hill. The rest are only big because of that. Other than like Seth Rogen, but he was already big.
Wasn't it? Wasn't the girl who was in Spider-Man?
I guess
Spider-Man?
She's that is true. She'd be the other one.
Emma Stone.
Yeah, that is true.
I've forgotten names today.
But she's like not that big of a part of the movie. She has like moments, but like it's mainly the four guys.
But that's the point, though, right? Yeah. Like, but then it had all the other guys in it. Who were the two? Who were the cops? I've forgotten their names. They've been in everything.
Yeah, but they were big before. I take your point. Like it couldn't. She would have to have a bigger role than she would have had in the original. Like, which is actually fair. She's good. But I just think that like. The funny part about the movie is those fucking three people are just like kind of awkward dudes that are just weird looking and funny.
Wow. Wow. So brutal. You were talking about Matt Smith last week looking like he was an incest baby, and now you got in Jonah Hill weird looking.
Not Jonah Hill.
Jonah, hit him up.
He's the most normal one, dude. You're telling me Michael Cera doesn't have a weird...
Yeah, he does.
Not even that he's weird looking, just he's more weird sounding.
Wow.
He talks like this. It's very, you know what I mean. And the other guy,
brutal.
McLovin. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know. He's great. What was he in? He was in Role
weird
Models.
Looking. They're just nerdy, right?
He was in Role Models.
He was in something, where he was the guy with
Paul
the
Rudd.
sword.
Yeah. That's a funny film, man.
It's underrated.
Yeah, I think so too. It's one of those that probably doesn't quite hold up today, like a lot of those films do. Don't.
I think it's better than most bad, mediocre comedies. That one didn't it also have what's his name in it?
Stifler?
Yeah, he was
No one
hilarious.
knows his name?
He was hilarious. I do
like
know
Sean
his name.
something?
Sean something something.
Something.
It's like a double. It's like a double.
Something dark side.
It's a middle name, or it's like a two-name name.
Sean William Scott.
Yes, that
we
must
did
be it.
It's 3 first names.
Yeah, there you go.
He's the boss at the end of the first name game.
Yeah.
Final one then. Did you also see this week that we got a trailer for Love, Death and Robots? Now, I don't know how into that you
No,
were.
you keep telling me to do it.
It's great. It's weird. It's
Just like,
really
is it
good.
depressing?
It's not depressing. It's got
Yeah.
some really humorous episodes. Imagine like a Dark Mirror but toned way down. And the
I
episodes
just
are
never
all
got
like,
in Dark Mirror because they started with something so aggressive.
Yeah, the pig one.
Yeah, and I was
Wow,
just like,
yeah,
like,
same.
why?
I've watched a lot of Dark Mirror, but I watched the first episode, which is the pig sex episode, and it took me 10 years to go back and watch anymore. At least
That's
10
literally
years.
that's literally me.
That's how
I've never
messed
watched
up
another
that
episode.
is. Yeah, it's
Which is not that it wasn't like an intriguing thing. It was just so well, it wasn't intriguing. It was just like it was a shocking concept.
it was shocking.
And it's just like was very depressing.
There are some really, really, really interesting think pieces in there, and there's one that I recommend you watch because I think it. You know how they're all sort of set in like 5 minutes future, right? There's one whereby everyone has like a chip that goes just behind your ear, but what it does is it connects to your eye and records all of your day. So you don't really have to use your memory anymore. If you've forgotten something, you just rewind back and you rewatch it. It's all stored in the cloud. But it's about this dude, and I don't know if you ever watched the film The Rock and Roller. Did you ever watch that?
No.
Okay, it's a guy who did Lock, Stock and Snatch, Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
And essentially, it's the main character from that. He's really great. Can't remember his name. Fantastic actor, though. And what he does is, what happens, he notices that his wife reacts differently to a person than he expects her to. And instead of just going, oh, that's weird, because he has this technology, he then goes back through all of his her interactions with this person.
He can go through hers.
No, he goes through all the ones that he's been involved with where she's in the room and finds out that this is a dude she'd either cheated on him with or whatever. Amazing concept. And like the way it all plays out and how that he feels about technology at the end of it. So interesting. Highly recommend. They're all like the same thing, like technology bad. You know, like
bad implications.
But I'd say this Love, Death and Robots has got a slightly more interesting slant to it in some respects because it is animated. So they're animated shorts between sort of like 5 and 15 minutes. And each one is usually looking at like a dystopian future or like a aspect of similar, but as it's animated, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, less restrictions.
Exactly. And you can just make all these weird scenarios and bring them to life. It's fun, man. I highly recommend.
I will check it out.
Thank you.
I basically I've finished everything but Castlevania.
Oh wow, the final
That show,
final BDSM
it's so
nail in your
weird
coffin.
that I watch it still. Nothing has happened for 3 seasons, but I'm still intrigued to watch.
There were only 4 seasons.
Well, that's my point. Everything happened in the first season.
Yeah.
The last 3 seasons, like literally nothing has happened.
Are
But
they
I'm still
building
watching.
Are they building to a big war?
No.
A big scuffle?
You watched it. I'm telling you.
I didn't. I think I dropped off
No,
after
you
season
didn't.
3
I'm just
or
telling
2.
you, nothing happened.
Stop shaking your bottle.
Nothing.
It's not helping the recording.
Anyway.
Nothing happened.
Yeah, that's all I had, man. Should we get to the main topic?
I think you should go back and watch Love, Death, and Robots.
Okay, well, we got that.
Do it immediately.
I'm on board.
Okay. Let us know what you guys have heard. Obviously, a bit of a dry news week this week, but we love it when you guys let us know news that's happened. We've got one coming at the end of the show. And in fact, the Love, Death, and Robots trailer was sent to us by friend of the show, Luke. So thank you very much for that. Hit us up at Podcast Assemble on Instagram, at us in a post, or send us it directly. We love it when you do. Now then, do you, DL, want to preface our main topic to ramble about?
Yes. Well, we already prefaced it. So.
We did, but do it again. Why not?
Sunday.
Sunday. We're talking about the day Sunday.
Moon Knight. Yeah, it's the, what is it, a mini, what do you call it when it's not approved for a second season yet, but it probably will be. It's a mini series on Disney Plus.
It is a series.
It is
on
very,
Disney Plus,
very.
which...
Yeah, we'll get into it. Starring Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaac. What'd you think of it, man?
Well,
I guess no. I'm skipping something. We have we have a thing that we do.
Why don't you tell me your stupid plot summary? We do this right because we decided a long time ago, especially talking about TV shows, we are really, really bad at surmising plots. So we do it in the stupidest way possible.
Ideally, it's funny, but this week I don't think it will be for me. Or it might just be very literal. A great Oscar Isaac character flick with some mediocre Marvel melee fuckery afoot.
Wow.
Yes.
Direct.
That was my... Yeah, it was very creative.
Speaking of no fucking around, that was... All right. Mine's got a bit of a different tactic this week. Mine is... Yeah. Blimey, my name's Stephen. I'm about to take you on the biggest adventure the MCU's ever seen. And no, it's not some silly... This is really hard to keep up. No, it's not about some silly Egyptian god or taking the action out of New York for once, but trying to change the perspective from every character having daddy issues to one where it's mummy issues.
You sound like the gumdrop.
And I'm a superhero too, I suppose.
Lucky, can you please edit that and post it as a story on Instagram? You sounded like the fucking not the poo gumdrop.
Gumdrop buttons.
Not the gumdrop buttons. or it was something else. There was another one I couldn't think of. It was that and something that was a mix.
This is the best one we've done so far.
Can you do that again?
Blimey, I can't. It's like
Mrs. Doubtfire or something.
Don't fire, dear. All right. Before I keep doing that horrible accent, which is destroying my throat right now, can you guess me what the IMDb score currently is for this?
I saw this. I can't pretend to know. It's 7.5.
It is 7.5, which, it's not bad, but MCU stuff, it's kind of low.
I mean, honestly, it's odd to me that it's 7.5 because, I would say 5 of the 6 episodes were definitely above a 7.5. One of the episodes was below a 7.5.
I massively agree. I wonder if this will come up when more people get around to actually seeing it.
Yeah.
Interestingly as well, though, beneath what Doctor Strange was last week, which we talked about, which was quite low on the Rotten Tomatoes spectrum.
Yes.
That actually dropped from 7.7 to 7.5 in the last week.
7.7 to 7.5. Wow, that's a crazy drop, man.
But can you guess me what the Rotten Tomatoes score is? Considering
for Moon Knight
considering last week's for Doctor Strange, it was 78.
Yeah, it'd be higher.
At time of recording.
Yeah, it'd be like 80 something.
It's 87. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, I think, way more aligned to what I feel about this show.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Doctor Strange also got a bad rap, man. It wasn't that bad a movie.
No, it wasn't. 75. It's just disjointed. I like the horror stuff. We've talked about it. Let's not go back there. Finally, then, do you want to guess me what the Metacritic score is?
81.
No.
Is that too high?
It's the golden hour. It's 69.
Yeah, I don't get
Bit of blue for the
Metacritic.
dads.
It's fun, but I get it. They're very hard critics, but then sometimes they're not.
It's really odd.
Yeah.
Metacritic is a bit of a...
You always aim lower, but as soon as I ever give it hope, I'm way off. So I'm just never going to do that again.
You can get it sometimes with the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, but definitely never going to get a Metacritic one right.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, this is a super diverse cast. Oscar Isaac plays multiple characters. Ethan Hawke. I'm really not doing a good job here of talking about the diversity. He is actually awesome in this.
Oscar Isaac is Guatemalan.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, then they are doing a good job.
Yeah.
May Calamway, I'm never going to say that right.
Calamway
Plays Layla. We have F.
Murray
Abraham. Khonshu. What a legend.
Khonshu.
It's such a good cast, man. It's so they're like.
It's not very big. It's pretty.
It's quite specific.
Tight.
Yeah, it's tight. Tight like a tiger. But it's Ethan Hawke, and he's really like Look, one more time, and I called this out last week. Marvel are a bit too tight with their castings. There isn't a good, goofy IMDb picture to bring you here. There were 2 chances. There's one who was a guy who looked like he was right out of the 70s, and there was one which was just a dude's eye with fire in it. But neither of them were goofy. So we're keeping our current goofy IMDb picture image winner, which is still Alexander Skarsgård, who's got his briefs on for some reason.
Yeah.
Now, why don't we then talk a little bit about the plot? What happened in this show? It's quite hard to do.
This is a hard one.
Did you like it?
I did like it. I thought there was a filler episode, but episode 3.
Which one was that?
The one where there was basic Marvel fuckery afoot.
Basic Marvel fuckery afoot. Which was that?
Which was just random little fights that didn't need to be there, and
when they went to Egypt for the first time.
Egypt, yeah.
Yes.
The Egypt episode could have been way cooler than that, and it was just
Well, it went back to look. Basically,
justifying it. It was a filler episode. Nothing happened in that episode.
Look, we are meeting Stephen Grant, and he's a well-mannered chap who sounds a bit like this. But he's always tired, right? Why is he always tired? Because he thinks he's got sleep problems.
Yes.
Problems. But it turns out problems.
That's what you said.
Turns out he secretly has a separate identity who might just be a superhero.
Multiple personality who might be a superhero who is a superhero tied to an Egyptian god.
He is a human who is suffering from dissociative identity disorder.
Yes.
I really like that Marvel's shining a light. I mean, I know it's in a bit of a feisty way.
I don't
like
think
that
so. I think that the first couple episodes, it was like, fuck, I feel for this guy.
Yeah, really did.
Like,
it was really interesting. And so basically he's struggling with this mental health problem, and his alter ego just happens to be a superhero, right? So he's got this other guy named Stephen Grant who plays Moon Knight, who is the avatar of an Egyptian god, Khonshu.
No, it's the other guy who's Mark Spector.
Mark Spector.
Who is the
gonna get
avatar,
this
which
confused
means
a
like
lot.
he gets the powers of an Egyptian god, but he's also at the god's behest. He makes like a pact to do some things based off the god. I'm sure it's different things.
He does, and we'll probably talk a bit more about that as we go through. But interestingly, the producer of the show, Grant Curtis, cited such psychological thrillers as Memento as an influence for this film. And I can see a lot of the influence of that.
Yeah, I mean, like as a concept, yeah, and like
absolutely.
how they open in cutscenes sometimes, yeah. Totally.
It's a bit knee-jerk sometimes to show, isn't it?
No, I get where he's coming from, but like Memento's so unique that it's like hard to compare anything to it. But
absolutely
influenced for sure.
I'm gonna probably skip ahead just a little bit to Pacings. I think to talk about the show in its mostly holistic way, you have to kind of talk about the pacing, because at the beginning, when you just know of one of the personalities, you get this weird knee-jerk break, stop-start thing where when he's there sometimes, and then
he just wakes up somewhere
Stephen
else.
wakes up somewhere else, and you're like, what's happening? Why are these guys dead?
Yeah.
It's like, so I felt that the first couple of episodes of the show were, they dragged a little bit because you didn't see any of that.
But I liked it because I was like, what the fuck's happening?
But it really draws you in, and you sit there and you go, and then you find out about the other personalities, and then it just goes wild.
Yeah, honestly, and we can't talk about all of it, but like this show like reinvents itself like 3 times.
Yeah, it really does.
in 6 episodes, which is pretty crazy. Like you're constantly on the edge of your seat because you're like, what?
But I think that's good because it gives you the sort of nausea almost that he's got flipping.
Yeah,
between...
no, you feel that way. You feel the way he's. I mean, you don't feel exactly the way, but like it's probably like an ode to how he's probably feeling. Like it's thematically like aligned to the characters.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. So let's talk a bit about the performances then. What did you think of?
I mean, like Oscar Isaac obviously was really good.
Yeah, he was awesome.
I mean, he did a really good job, and he's honestly between the 2 main characters, he plays both of them, so he gets a lot of screen time.
He does,
thankfully. And Ethan Hawke was kind of like good in a haunting kind of one-dimensional way.
Yeah, I mean, even with the dodgy British accent, I think he really nails Stephen Grant.
I thought you were talking about. I was
Oscar
like, Ethan
Isaac.
Hawke didn't have
I'll talk
that.
about Ethan Hawke in just a minute. I wanted to call out a really fun part of this character, though. Rather than just having Oscar, act essentially against a green screen and then photoshopping, that's not the right word, compositing him in afterwards, they actually got his real-life brother, journalist and actor Michael Benjamin Damian Hernandez to serve as his double. So there are times when you think he's essentially like CGI talking to himself, but they've actually got his brother there, which I love, and it gives it like a realistic edge to it, which some shows on movies especially tragically lack.
Yeah, no, I think I can't imagine how hard it would be to like record a conversation with yourself.
I'd be so hard.
And act it.
Do you remember when Ian McKellen broke down on The Hobbit and started crying because he was like, I didn't sign up to sit in front of a green screen and talk at a wall?
Yeah, I mean, there's that part too, but even just like trying to read, like, because you're playing off someone who's not there.
Yes.
Right? And it's also you. Like,
yeah, fuck yeah.
Like even when you're trying to imagine how you would be, it's just like a lot of heady. Yeah.
How would you with an English accent react to the things that are happening around you?
Gators.
I thought he was like amazing. Ethan Hawke was great too.
The voice acting though with what's his name before we're talking performances.
Well, we'll get to that. I was going to say though, this is the second time we've had Ethan Hawke featured on the show in the past 3 weeks. Is this something of a renaissance for Ethan Hawke? Maybe we could call it a renaissance.
What was the last Ethan Hawke?
He was in The Northman.
He was ever so
He was
briefly.
the king.
Ever so briefly.
He's back in a big way, baby. Like
he was always good. I don't know why. He's always been in good movies. Name a movie that was like super terrible.
Was he in Training Day? He was.
Yes.
Yeah, great film.
I mean, that's like what put him on the map, though. Like,
I feel like there was a big dip in the middle there. Like he didn't do a lot.
No, but you're right. He did a lot of, I think, like indie flicks.
Yeah.
And like not high budget movies, but like I guess my point is that's a shame because it's not a shame, but like he should have done more because he picks good movies
for sure. And I thought he really clearly went to town on this character. So the character's playing Arthur Harrow.
Yeah,
he's technically from the comics, but he's just like he's like a one-page character, like he's a nothing. So they've created him from scratch, and he used a load of interesting influences, like a cult leader, David Koresh, who was a religious fanatic, to build this character.
That's the way he did that well. Then
yeah, I think it's really interesting and really subtly done. Like I really like that, but we haven't yet talked about Layla, who is. She's almost as much of a main character as Mark is.
I mean, like she's important to the kid, but I feel like everything about her is like in relation to Mark until the end. She doesn't have a lot of agency.
Well, one of the
what did you do to my dad? What did you do to like? You know what I mean?
Okay,
why
you don't
why
think
you
she
leave
passed
me?
the Bechdel test?
I'm not like not really.
Interesting. We'll talk a little bit about her more at the end, though.
Yeah.
Go on then. Tell me about the voice actors then, because there were some fucking cool ones.
The only one I really looked up was Murray Abraham, and he is also in the Grand Budapest Hotel. That's what it is. He's the freaking like head honcho of the hotel.
He's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Anyway,
He's
but I couldn't remember what he was from. He's in the White Lotus. Did you like him in that?
Is he actually?
You hate it.
Is he in White Lotus?
Let's see. He is Bert DeGrasso.
Bert. Okay, cool.
DeGrasso. The other stuff I don't really know him from, to be honest, but he's in a lot of stuff. No, he was really good. His voice is very compelling. What did you think about, like, we're talking about performances, and this is kind of separate to it, but like the design of the gods.
Of the gods specifically.
Yes.
I actually really liked Concho. I thought it was really interestingly designed. But I mean, that's pretty much directly from the comics. A lot of those looks, all stripped pretty much straight from. But graphically, I thought they were really well created as well. Like in terms of, they didn't look. I mean, it was interestingly done because you didn't see any real interaction with the human characters in them, which helped because they were gods and they were essentially kind of spirits.
Yeah.
Like, only the person who they wanted to see them could see them. It appeared, and I liked how they were created. They looked fucking awesome.
And their reveals, like it was pretty cool. The reveal of Khonshu to Stephen Grant in the beginning, like how it was like kind of horror-y, and you're like, what the fuck?
What are you doing?
Yeah,
bring the other guy back.
Yeah, and they're like, there's literally no preface for it. Like it just kind of happens, and you're like kind of just along for the ride with them as we talked about.
Well, that's kind of what Stephen is, right?
And
that's what's really interesting about it. So in terms of the cinematography and world building, for once we can talk about an MCU property and we're not talking about it's just sort of like jammed in to New York where everything else is. I like what they did. They went to some interesting locations.
Yeah.
Like Egypt was there. There was one in the Alps. That was cool as well.
Yes.
I thought the discovery of it was the most interesting part as well. Like almost Stephen discovered himself in this new location and had to sort of survive that part.
Totally.
And it was so interesting, so good. And they were constantly hinting at other things happening. Khonshu's clearly got these wacky powers that can just take him anywhere.
Yeah.
And it was like you say, like the show reimagined itself so many times. As soon as you thought, all right, this is a show with a superhero who's got these powers, that's interesting, I get it. They then layered on the fact that the gods all can get together and have like a powwow in a well, I guess it's a pyramid, and just like have a big old chat through their avatars. It's like, it's so interesting, and all the lore is so interesting as well. It made me want to go and study bloody hieroglyphs.
Yeah, there was also just a lot of good character moments, man. Like, well, mainly just like Mark and Steven, but like,
sure.
It was like really like well acted. It was I enjoyed like the whole arc that they had.
It had some pretty interesting sort of like almost horror-ish elements. We talked a bit last week about some of the stuff with
not as crazy as that, but
Doctor Strange. No, not at all. Nowhere near horror, but like some of the elements of, imagine discovering there's another personality inside you. That's terrifying.
That would not be fun.
But the way they do it is they build it up with reflections, not dissimilar to how the Scarlet Witch character from last week, sort of like scoots around and gets in and out of stuff. I really like that man. Like the way he would look at a reflection and he's talking to a different personality of himself. Imagine you're the person who's getting beaten up and the dude in front of you glances to the side and all of a sudden he's got a British accent and he's talking at you.
Yeah, it would be.
You'd be like, what is happening?
Do you remember the like? I guess we're not allowed to talk about it, but there's I'll keep the details in the post-credit scene. A coffee gets knocked over that looks like it has sand and it's actually coffee.
I don't know that.
You didn't see that?
No.
It's very similar. The reason I bring it up because you brought up to the ocean in the it made me think.
Interesting.
I'm gonna say. Anyway, more on that later in the pod.
Interesting. We might come back to Doctor Strange a little bit because we've got some correspondence about that. But let's try and stick with this.
I just mean that I think that there might be connected.
No, that's cool. What do you think of the action in this? Because they kind of. I felt like they tried to bring it back to more one-to-one stuff in many respects, but at the same time, there was a lot of CGI, especially with the Moon Knight suit.
Yeah, look, I thought the Moon Knight suit was really cool.
Cool looking, right?
Yeah, it was like well designed. It was fun, but like the combat stuff was I just kind of yada out because it was just like the hard part for me is this movie is so like. Unique or the show is so unique in other ways, and it was like really, really well acted and character, and the plot was very, very unique.
Yeah,
that when it got kind of classic Marvel-y, I was like, oh, this doesn't fit.
Honestly, one of my notes is literally for the first time I felt I was less interested in the action when like the actual superhero in quotation marks Moon Knight when he was on screen was less interesting than everything else, and I thought the struggle with his dissociative. Personalities was way more interesting,
and the cool fights were when it was like switching between the suit and the other one, where it was, their banter was continued into the fight. The boring fights were when it was just like Mark Spector beating everybody up.
Yeah. So the interesting part about the two characters is that we're sort of trying to sort of say in a weird way is Mark Spector. He is a mercenary.
Yeah.
He knows how to fight. He can kill whoever he wants whenever he wants. Stephen, the second personality, is not. He is a very gentle English bloke who sounds like this. And he doesn't know what to do. And there are times when Mark is in the outfit, the Moon Knight outfit, and Stephen is in control, and the whole thing changes, and he becomes a dude in a suit. So
their outfit changes, and also his abilities change.
Because it's magic, right?
Yeah, well, it's just, I guess it's just the way it is, right? But I guess the banter between them in a fight when they're switching and like the suit changes and like obviously his abilities change as well because in the beginning at the very least Steven isn't very good at fighting, so it's kind of funny because he gets his ass kicked when it changes.
That was one thing that kind of threw me a little bit. That he just got good at fighting, but I wonder if that's because he can draw.
Well, I think it's because he realizes he starts to realize they're the same person, and so in doing so he gets
muscle
confident.
memory.
Yeah, he gets confident.
Interesting point about the Moon Knight suit. I don't know if you know this. But this is really great. So a lot of superheroes, they dress in black. So they, like Batman, he hides in the shadows.
Yeah, you've told me this.
Yeah, but Moon Knight wears white so enemies see him coming. He wants them to know he's out after them. I love that. That's such a great wrinkle. Talking about the suit and the CGI, you could tell it was a little bit TV budget at times. They clearly saved all their budget for 1 or 2 episodes.
And the cool battle at the end where your avatars are fighting gods and you couldn't really tell who was actually affecting who.
Sure.
I liked that a lot.
I like that too. There was the bit when it kind of went sideways and they both jumped up the side of a pyramid and it was like, that does not look good. But I did love there's an episode whereby Khonshu, the Egyptian god, turns back time through moving the stars, and it's amazing. So essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to find a location. We haven't talked about the bad guys at all. Let's
so like the plot is we find out midway through after the first couple episodes we're just trying to figure out what the fuck's happening. And there's these people chasing Steven. We find out that the people chasing Steven are chasing him for this scarab that apparently his other personality Mark has stolen, which Steven has no idea about. And in essence, the group of followers for another god, I forget what's the god's name. That's a good question. Anyway, Ethan Hawke is the avatar. That's the Amit. Yes, Amit is basically entombed somewhere and trapped somehow
because the gods decided she was too much of a threat, and her perspective,
her persona, her MO.
Well, yeah, her MO is to kill people before they do bad, judge them before they do.
Why
bad
do we wait? I'm a god. I know what's gonna happen.
Exactly. Rather than giving them the free will to
Yes.
maybe not do.
And
that
Khonshu
things.
is the one who exacts revenge on those against those who have
things.
done bad things. So they're almost on the same page, but they're
quite.
not. So they're diametrically opposed.
But not quite.
And so Spectre is trying to keep this scarab from Ethan Hawke because it shows where Amit is entombed.
Yeah, correct.
And that is the plot we're basically following for the entirety of the show.
Yeah, there was a point I was going to make there, but I can't remember. But I liked that overview because that is the sort of...
Probably should have said that in the beginning.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's so
Copy and
hard
paste?
it's so hard to talk about
Yeah.
the show without going deep on the characters. I feel like they're the main part of this. And like I say, the Moon Knight stuff isn't as fun as the rest of it. So when you do finally get them the gods on screen, it is super interesting. And that's what Arthur Harrow is doing, right? His whole sort of directive is to free this god.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, you let me know, but the tones and themes, there's a lot of...
I think we should really push into spoilers territory because it's tough to talk because essentially a big couple of things happen in the sort of third and fourth episodes that really drive.
That's
help
true.
drive
It's impossible to talk about tones and themes without that.
Yeah, but I mean, we can talk about tones and themes, and I kind of just went. It was more of a mystery for me, like than any of the Marvel stuff I've seen for a while. I feel like that was a pretty big tonal shift of the movie when you get to the fourth and fifth and sixth episodes, and it's just them having the big Marvel fights, like fair enough. But the mystery bits were the bits that I liked the most. What did you think?
Oh yeah, I liked that. I just liked the character bits where they where he's having to face his past, and they both have to deal with it together. So yeah, I thought like a lot of themes around like dealing with grief, accepting regret, and
it's interesting because that's one I really want to talk about. But
handling mental illness,
just for spoilers, because it is a really awesome part of the show. So 3 best and 3 worst. Then we do this to sort of say to you guys, here's 3 reasons you might want to watch this, which are non-spoilers, and 3 reasons that you might want to take pause and not watch it if you don't want to, which are also non-spoilers.
Don't want to, later skaters.
Yeah. So what are your 3 best and 3 worst?
The plot was really good. Like, it was
I liked the show.
No, it was just like a unique plot. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like a classic superhero movie or superhero plot or hero plot even. There was a
really
very
a plot,
unique spin on that stuff. So it was
We've talked a couple of times over the last few weeks around your classic hero stories.
Yeah.
This isn't that either. Like we've had a lot of
I mean, like they do try and save the world at some point, but like it's really irrelevant.
I suppose in many ways it does kind of follow the tropes of like a hero arc.
I mean, like all of these things do, but this is a very unique way of doing it.
Sure. I guess
It's
maybe
novel.
I guess the interesting part you could say is that Stephen maybe has the hero arc, and interestingly, Mark, who's the one who is the action hero per se, kind of is along for the ride. He doesn't have the classic hero arc. He has to be brought around to it.
Well, I think he has like the redemption,
more
the
so
redemption arc. But
but
Steven's kind of got the traditional hero's journey.
It's interesting that they're in the same character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Oscar Isaac and his 2 very distinct characters.
Beautiful man.
Yeah, it's just really, really good work.
Man Crush Central.
And then I just think there's other things, like specific things that I would call out, but I think it's interesting places for Marvel to kind of go with it. And I really like how they expanded the universe while making a character film that deals with mental health.
Sure.
It was good.
Yeah. All right. It's my first one, funnily enough, the spotlight on mental health. I thought really interesting. It's really hard to do and do well.
They did do it
without
well,
being
though.
cliche or
or
bad
too depressing.
stereotypes. Depressing.
Yeah.
I think they managed to stick on a line and stick to it, and it was really well done. I thought the concept's really fun. Like I knew a little bit about Moon Knight. I knew that he wanted to see his enemies to see him coming.
That's all you've ever said about him, so I think that's all you
It's
knew.
great. Yeah. I knew a little bit, didn't know a huge amount about him. And I actually like that we started with Steven because the comics you usually follow Mark. So I understand. So it's interesting that you got this sort of bumbling. You didn't think you were watching an action show. You were like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
But then we started like blanking out.
It was surprising.
Yeah.
When I had no context, and I see this guy, I'm like, this is the hero.
Yeah. Well, one of the things in the trailer that we can talk about was the action scene when he is in the Alps and he's driving the van.
Yeah.
And Mark keeps forcibly taking over.
That was a cool sequence.
So cool and so well done. And Stephen's waking up. He's got a gun. I mean, it's a bit tropey, but like he wakes up, there's a gun in his hand. He's like, what's happened? The dead guy's just behind him.
I loved that. Like, it was so much better than the other fights in episode 3. It was super good.
And that leads into my second one, which is some of the action that was super interesting. It was good because you had Mark, who was super proficient in what was going on. And you had Stephen, who had no idea. And the bits where he was in control, like the bit where they're fighting the monster, I think in the second episode in the street. And he basically teased the monster into going in front of a car. Quite fun, quite novel. That was all three of them, actually. I said the concept was really fun. 3. Loved the mental health spotlight and loved the action. Yeah, what did you have 3 worst?
I just said parts when this falls into Marvel fuckery, mediocre Marvel fuckery, as I've said, and it stands out given high caliber the acting and plot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it gets into like the formula stuff, you're kind of like, ugh. That was one, and then episode 3 in general, I just found to be filler. I've talked about it.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, for a 6-episode season, I'm like, surely they could have done something else, like expanded it with more gods. You know what I mean? Like they have all these 6 other avatars. Like I loved how they
might be saving that for later seasons.
Yeah, but I mean, like build a little bit here. So like
build with me.
I just felt like they could have done something else to fill that hour, other than because it basically was just a chase sequence to get them to the tomb. Nothing happened. So like do something else to build the lore or the characters, or even give Layla more time, something else, or even Ethan Hawke to give us a little more backstory.
I'm on board with that.
So that was my second, and then what was my third? The females had very little agency. It felt like.
I agree with that. Yeah, I feel like there could have been a lot. I mean, there was only really one female character.
Why did I say females? Is there another female?
Well, there are technically.
Who?
Well, in the beginning, there's the ones who are in the museum with Stephen. They do show up later on, and one of the things I actually meant to say in my 3 best and 3 worst was I liked, and we can't. It's tough to talk about, but there is a completely different side to the show when Mark or Stephen are losing in fights, and they just snap, and they're all of a sudden in like a mental ward or whatever you call it.
Yes, well, you're not supposed to talk about that.
But like it's in the trailers. There are bits where they're in there, and it's like we're gonna come around to talk about it more.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Me neither.
Yeah, and no one does. But that's what this show has. Like it keeps you on your toes.
Did you do all 3 of your worsts?
I think I did. Yeah.
Okay, quickly then. I felt the first couple of episodes did seem to drag a little. I got it later, but at the time I was like, this is real drag. Some of the CGI. Not good, especially with the Moon Knight suit, I felt personally, and just more purple lasers. I feel like that's a Marvel staple. If there's not a purple laser in there,
well, that was the worst
not
part.
Happy.
I thought Moon Knight suit was fine. It was Ethan Hawke stuff.
It just looked like he was. It made him look like he was a weird shape, and it was. I can't explain it to you. But
he was big. He looked yoked.
Yeah, I mean, the point is he's not. Like it would have looked better if it just looked like he was the normal size.
It's the suit. So
Magic.
Turn on the suit.
All right. Give me your rating of this. Is this better or worse than Aquaman 2018?
I waited for you to finish, and it is better than Aquaman.
It is better than Aquaman 2018. We've done too many betters recently. We need to do some more worse.
No, it's fine. Let's keep this up. Let's keep this train going.
All right, spoilers then. It's really hard to dance around this show without getting into spoilers. I think the first point we should really get into is that essentially Harrow... He finishes his plan, right? He breaks free the baddie Amit.
Yes, and that's like what the last episode's about. They battle. And Harrow used to be Conju's...
he did, which is an interesting
avatar,
plot
which we
twist.
didn't even need to... I don't even think that... I think that gets revealed pretty early.
Pretty early.
Yeah. And so he's like... It's obviously like he's kind of doing this partially in response to what he went through.
Yeah.
And you're watching Mark go through that because Conju is kind of a dick to Mark.
Yeah.
Oftentimes.
Well, I mean, there's lots of... I mean, I was watching it thinking, he's not a good entity.
Yeah. No.
I get some of their immediate concerns align, but he's really not good for either of these people.
No.
And we'll talk about in a minute even more people's in a second. But I think what's interesting about that final battle is that... so what happens effectively is Mark gets shot. right? And we think he's dead. I mean, he is dead, technically.
Yeah.
And he goes to the afterlife.
Literally, he's getting ferried there by the other god.
This was the bit where I fell off a little bit. The fifth episode. He spent a whole episode with him on a boat.
I loved
going
that.
going to the Egyptian afterlife.
I loved it. You didn't like it?
So interesting.
Oh, I thought you said you fell off. Like,
I fell off as in I fell off my chair. I was like, what is
okay.
happening? The show reinvented itself.
Yeah. Well, and then wasn't it the episode before that when we first get introduced to the psych ward where like you realize try and understand. Maybe it's the same episode. I forget. I think it was like 4 or 5. And you just like all of a sudden, all the world you're in, it's basically Ethan Hawke with a different haircut.
Yes.
Interviewing freaking Mark Spector or whoever it is, Stephen Grant, whatever, who's in that moment in a psych ward. And you're like, wait, so is he just imagining the entire story? Like, and they don't really explain it, to be honest.
Not at all.
They go back to it like multiple episodes, but like at the way it ends is, they put away the bad guy and they've negotiated because Stephen and we should talk about that whole episode, but that whole part. But Stephen and
we kind of have to talk in chunks.
Yeah, like Stephen and Mark have come to an agreement that like, hey, Khonshu, since we saved your ass here, because I'll skip the details, but they do end up saving his ass and saving the world. You're gonna let us be free, and we're gonna kind of be free of your stuff.
Your tyranny.
Yeah, your tyranny. And when that happens, they basically go back to the psych ward again.
Yeah. And then what's interesting is they seem in control at that point.
Yes, and basically Ethan Hawke, who is supposed to be basically the doctor, interviewing the psychiatrist interviewing Mark Spector, saying you're sick and trying to get him to admit that he's sick, and then he's imagining this whole thing that he keeps talking about with the Egyptian gods. Like they turn it around on him, and like you're bleeding, and he had just been died or injured.
There are interestingly sort of almost 3 distinct
layers. 3 layers.
In this. Yeah, layers. Let's call it that. It's a cake.
Yeah.
It's a parfait. Everyone loves parfait. So there is our reality, as you would say, which is them living and flipping between Cairo and et cetera, and Mark and Stephen are Khonshu's avatar. There's this weird middle layer, which is that they are in a psychiatric hospital.
Yes.
Which seems to be a figment of Mark or Stephen's imagination. You never
don't really know.
That's the point. That's what I'm trying to get at. You never find out. It's so interesting. Then there's this third layer which sort of connects to the second one, which is they literally fall into like the Egyptian afterlife.
Yeah, which is just like meta. Yeah.
Yeah. And you start seeing the Egyptian gods more.
And the Egyptian gods are doing what they're supposed to do.
Hippo.
The hippo who like is the god that like guides people to the afterlife where they're decided if they forever die in the sands or go to the green grassy field.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. Osiris who lets them in. I thought that was a funny part when like, and so now we'll get to the main spoilers, I think, which is why Mark and Stephen have a split personality in the first place.
Yes, and this is a part of the show which I found most effective.
Yeah, it was
most interesting.
It grounded all the characters.
It so did. Yeah. And so what you never know is, so the mystery I talked about when I was talking about my 3 best, the real mystery is that you don't know why Mark's never realized Stephen's there, or Stephen's never realized Mark's there.
Yep.
In all their time, and Mark's effectively been hiding from him.
And Mark seems to know who he is.
Precisely.
Throughout the whole show.
And the most interesting part is, while they are dying effectively, because Harrow shoots them, which is, I love that. It's not like magic. It's not like some nonsense.
No, you just get shot.
MacGuffin. It's just like gets a gun and it's actually a really cool old-fashioned gun and shoots him. And as he's lying there dying, it's almost like that. You string out your last moment into eons or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They
go into the Egyptian afterlife.
Yeah, and they have to use the measures to make sure their hearts are balanced.
Yes.
And what happens is they start going through some of the past.
Yes.
And do you want to describe what happens in the past with them as kids?
I mean, no one really wants to describe that, I guess. But, so he, Mark, you follow Mark as a kid, and you see him and his brother, who he's got a nice little brother. Yeah. They love watching this. Yeah, very cute. They love pretending to be this like old school, almost like Indiana Jones style movie where it's like explorers. And that you see them watching that. Then you also see them pretending to go play, and one of them's Dr. Stephen Grunt.
They go into a cave together.
They go explore in a cave, and then it starts to rain. And obviously when you go in, because were their parents archaeologists? I don't remember. But they go into this cave near the house and they're exploring and it floods. And when the cave floods, right, like when it rains and you're in a cave and you've gone down, you can easily drown, right, if the cave fills up. And that's what happens. One of his little brother drowns and he can't save him. And you follow through a series of memories
through Stephen, who doesn't remember any of this.
Yeah, he doesn't know any of this. He's
so
he's like, what's happening? And Mark's kind of pushing back, doesn't want to like relive the trauma, but they go room to room through this psych ward, which is like almost like a Christmas Carol style psych ward
like
experience.
Scooby-Doo, they're running through different doors.
Yeah, they go through different doors and it's different memories, but it's a psych ward, which makes me wonder, is that connected to the psych ward in the other dimension? Like, because it looks similar. And you eventually get to the fact that his mom blamed him his entire life.
And she
hates
was
him.
abusive
to him the whole child. Both mentally and literally physically.
And what Mark would do is he created a second personality in his head, effectively to take the beatings.
Yes.
Which is hideous.
Yes, to take the beatings
Stephen
and
doesn't
survive.
remember any of that.
Nope.
And
Stephen still calls his mom every night, thinking that he's talking to her,
which is massively strange and so interesting. But it's just devastating. It's like an episode that just builds and builds and builds, and I liken it in a weird way. I do this every time to a How I Met Your Mother episode. Sorry to go on a tangent, but there's this really affecting, really interesting How I Met Your Mother episode where you think the story is about Marshall and Lily, the main couple of it basically, who are trying to have a kid and they're struggling, so they go to a doctor. And all the way through the episode, I might have talked about this before, there are little cues, there are numbers, and it's counting down from 50. And it's like one's on the back of a doctor's pad, and one's a clock, and one's a taxi number. And as it's going through, it's counting down from 50 to 1. And they get to the end of the episode, and they're both... Marshall's thrilled because he gets the news. He's like, oh my God, like, we can have a baby type thing. It's neither of us. But the one hits was Lily pulls up in a taxi, and it turns out that the real story is that Marshall hasn't heard from his dad all day, and his dad's died. And it's this really affecting, really interesting build because you're totally looking the opposite direction, and it just slaps you around the face. And that's kind of what I felt when I was watching this. Like, not quite as abstract as that, not taking you away in a different way, but the way it was building and you could see it happening, and then it was so happy, and then oh my God, and then that affecting bit at the end where you're like, he literally created another personality to take the beatings for him. Is just
and it was well acted. That's the thing.
So well acted.
So like it's hard to like pull that off if you don't have a good actor. And I mean, like, it's a very, very like, it is something where you would be like, okay, this is what could break someone, right? If their mom acted like this, and it's like. And it's like, it was really affecting because he was like sad to say that he created him, took the hits and all the work, all the horrible stuff.
He had to take all of
and like,
stuff.
but he's this happy guy, and it's like, so he had to not only like talk to him about how that's what he created him to do, but also break the news that he wasn't real.
Yeah,
because he thought he was real. Like
he thought he was the main character.
Yeah, which he's not. He was the creation. Anyway,
it was. And that was so effective and so interestingly done. And
the way the build-up happened and was
really
was quite good.
So amazing. Just flipping back, then once we found out all that, the heart's balance, Stephen actually falls off the boat and becomes apparently sand forever. Doesn't happen. Mark
decides to come back from heaven.
To leave essentially heaven, which looks really fucking boring, man. Who wants to be in a field of reeds for the rest of your life? What are you gonna do?
It's the Egyptian way.
What are you gonna do? And then he effectively saves Stephen. They go back together to fight Harrow and finish the job. The job's only half done. And this is where you get to the point where you wanted to mention before about Layla's transformation.
Yes, where she, in order to help save them, Khonshu tries to take her over, but she denies him because Mark has always said,
I think it's the character who's on the boat, the hippo lady, Towerette.
Yeah, that's who she eventually uses as an avatar.
She then becomes the avatar. She's against becoming an avatar. She's like, I see how Khonshu treats Mark. I don't want that.
Yeah.
But she realizes she needs to have more
power to fucking help.
Some sort of power to go up against this bloody supervillain who's got a big purple laser at his dispense. Yeah. It's really, really effective. When she came out with her superhero outfit on, she becomes the Scarlet Scarab.
She looked a bit yoked.
I thought she was going to get hippo powers. I was like, where's the hippo outfit? I was so confused.
What is a hippo power?
I don't know.
Running faster than your size lets on?
Maybe she was like, she just got real chunky out of nowhere. I don't know.
She did have good triceps. I noticed that after she got the suit on. Yes.
But it was more the fact she had this sort of almost Falcon-esque wing garment.
It didn't actually add up to the hippo thing.
Yeah, it was a bit strange. But together, they have enough power to essentially beat Harrow. Right?
Yes.
Which was, the classic Marvel ending. I really like that. I mean, no need to talk about that too much.
Do we talk about the post-credit scene?
Yeah. I can ask you one question before we do.
Yeah.
Were the psychiatric scenes real?
Yes, because this is connected to the multiverse.
Okay.
And
you think he was in a different universe at this point?
I think he could have been like, maybe this is an interpretation of dream walking, right? Like this guy, he is like mentally unhealthy, obviously. But that gives him the ability to see into what, if we think dreams are other versions of the multiverse, why couldn't a vision, like a paranoid delusion or whatever it might be the same thing?
Interesting.
I'm just this is me just spitballing.
I just have no idea. Like I'm happy to take.
So in essence, they're all real.
All and any influence, no idea.
They're all real.
So essentially, there is a post-credit scene. Now, before we talk about that, you have to say that when Mark and Steven come back, they bargain with Khonshu. They say, "Hey, you've been screwing us over here. We want out."
And he agrees very easily.
He agrees way too easily.
It's a red flag.
Also, incredibly specific with his phrasing. He says, "Yes, I will let the two of you go." Now, the post-credit scene happens to show that not only do they have Mark and Steven, they have another person
that they are not aware of.
That they are not currently aware of. They did hint at
that
it
many times. I was going to say there's a lot of cool hints that hints that there's this guy that you're not seeing.
Yeah.
Some subtle, some very unsubtle.
And if you're a fan of the comics, you'll know that there are three personalities in there, and this is Jake Lockley.
Yeah.
Who in this is French?
No, I think he just was speaking Spanish.
Okay. For no reason.
But he also had a New York accent.
Okay.
So
I think he's the British one in the comics. He's a cabbie.
I don't know what I think they've changed it to be he's like a New Yorker cabbie.
Either way, it's awesome. What effectively happens is we found out Arthur is in the psych ward.
Well, and it's unclear.
It's a psych ward.
It's unclear if that's because of like what happened after the reality where there's Egyptian gods and avatars. Well, I guess that's in all of them, but it's unclear if it's happened after what we've just seen, where they saved the world and he's been so destroyed by this god that he's now in a psych ward.
Or maybe
and they let him live. Mark lets him live. And
there's a great point a podcaster I love makes about that, and he says that's one of those TV tropes that he hates, right? Like he murdered so many people up to that point. Like you watch those episodes, it's like 5 or 10 an episode, and then it's because it's the final guy. It's like, no, you've got to let him live. It's like, you kill everyone else, man. Just finish the job. Like, he's the bad guy. Like he's the one who's got the goddamn evil spirit in him, whatever.
That's a fair call.
Finish your job.
It is a fair call. But I guess the other guys were like still fighting to the death. This guy is incapacitated. That is the
fair. He was lying prone on a block. But what happens is you see Harrow. He's in the psychiatric hospital. He gets wheeled out by a man in a flat cap who you don't see his face, and gets put in a limo. And in the back of the limo, he's with Khonshu.
He says, "Khonshu, you can't affect me." And he's like, "What, bro? You haven't met my third dude named Jeremy. What was it?
Jake Lockley.
Jake Lockley.
Jake turns around with a silenced gun and just
pew pew
finishes the job.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
It is a brutal ending.
My favorite bit about this is it's contained. So if they want to leave it there, they can.
They could.
And if they wanted to come back to it, they could do that too, because there's so much more they could explore. The Khonshu relationship, he's clearly still under Khonshu's control because he's got the third personality who wants to work for him, who looks like a psychopath.
And also there's moments where I think he actually you're revealed to Jake Lockley. Lockley?
Yeah.
Where we didn't realize it until after. So I think in episode 5, there's a part where he's in the psych ward again, like it goes back and forth to him being in the psych ward. And he gets really, really aggressive because Ethan Hawke's character is telling him, no, this isn't real. He's like, fuck you. And his accent changes from normal American to like weirdly aggressive New York accent, while also just having this really contorted, angry face. And I think that was Jake Lockley coming out very subtly, and they were just hinting at...
I like that.
hinting what was to come in
like
the next episode.
All right, well, this is better than Aquaman. We've already said that. But what I'd love to know from you is, let's do a little a ranky rank. The worst thing about these being so good, this 15 years worth of movies and TV shows, is something has to be the least favorite. So let's just talk about the best, right? What's your top 3 from Phase 4?
Spider-Man.
Yep.
Loki.
Yep.
This or Doctor Strange.
I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't like Doctor Strange. I did. We talked about it last week. Thought it
just feels kind of isolated, but I agree.
I really just liked that they did something a bit different.
Yeah.
He talked like this the whole way through. And it's my favourite. Now, this is probably my third favourite of the lot. Well, let me do a bit of true or false trivia for you then, my man. Actually, I've already ruined one of them. That's good news.
Well done.
All right, then. So, true or false? Arthur Harrow was chosen as the main villain for the show because Moon Knight only really has one recognizable villain as Bushman. True or false?
The main villain for the show. True.
It is true. The creators felt that Bushman was incredibly close to Black Panther's Eric Killmonger, so they decided to go with a slightly different direction. And he is in the comics, like he's
mercenary guy.
Yeah, not dissimilar. This is the 4th time Oscar Isaac has played a Marvel character. Is that true or is that false? He's looking very confused right now. Marvel, think all of Marvel.
I literally can't think of one.
Not just in the MCU.
A Marvel character.
Uh-huh.
Has he played something in the X-Men?
Getting very close.
1. Spider-Man, no. What else is there? No, false.
It's false, but it's 3. So he's obviously...
Correct, but incorrect.
Correct, but incorrect. Correct for the wrong reasons. He played...
Successfully failed.
Apocalypse
failed
in X-Men Apocalypse. Yeah, failed successfully. Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse.
Bad guy. I do remember that.
Really, really underwhelming. He voiced Miguel O'Hara in the post-credit scene for Spider-Man No Way Home, who's Spider-Man 2099, who we're hoping to see more in the upcoming No Way Home.
You actually told me about that. You told me about that, yes. That's 2. What's the fucking third one?
We talked about that recently. That was it.
This one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, finally then, the QR code shown throughout the show actually divert you to real websites.
Sure. Yes, true.
It is true. If you use your smartphone, they redirect to a page on the Marvel website where you can read for free various issues of the Moon Knight comics, which I really, really like.
You appreciate that.
I do. I read one of them. Actually, the very first one they let you click through to was it's Wolf by Night or Werewolf by Night. I can't remember what it is. It's one of the first showings of Moon Knight, and it's also actually they're doing a one-shot of that in the MCU coming up in the future.
Okay.
So you're gonna get werewolves, you're gonna get all that stuff. Ultimately, I think this was one of my favorite parts of Phase 4, and I'm really glad we got it.
Me too, man. And I think it's got high rewatch value.
Absolutely.
We only talked about a few of the hints, but there's like 3 or 4 hints about Jake
so
Leary.
Much more.
Whatever his name is.
We couldn't fit all of it into an hour and whatever we talked now. All right. Thank you for sticking with it, everyone. We do enjoy you listening to us ramble, and we hope you do too. Where can they find us, DL?
They can find us at thepodcastassemble@gmail.com or podcastassemble on Instagram. Lockie, please put that English accent on the...
And some people have.
They have.
They haven't got the English accent on there, but they
have found you. They have found us there.
They have found us.
Through all the handles.
They have.
Without a follow, without a mention.
Friend of the show, Gordon, says to preface, we got a couple of reactions to Doctor Strange.
Okay, let's hear it.
And I'll give you...
I am curious, because people be hating.
I'll give you 2.
Okay.
First and foremost, Gordon says, 7 out of 10. Not as good as the marketing had you believe. He also goes on to say that if you hadn't seen WandaVision, he didn't understand most of the movie.
You got to do your homework to ace the test, mate.
That's it.
You got to do your homework.
Jordan, you got to do your
homework. Do your P's and Q's.
God, I'm never bringing this guy back. Go on, you go.
I hear you, man, but I just think if you let the marketing get into your head and say it was going to be a 10 out of 10, you got to judge it for what it is. I think it wasn't a 7. It wasn't
So this was one of the movies where I've got my rule, right? I watched one trailer and then I stopped. This was a movie that was so hyped. It was even on, the trailer was even on in my gym. I had goddamn... Yeah, so annoying. There were there posters for it everywhere. I couldn't avoid it. It's on in train stations in Sydney. And I'm like, I couldn't avoid it. So you just had to see all of the trailers.
I only saw one, to be honest. But because every time it was like coming, I just turned on music and shut my eyes. But look, I think that 7 out of 10 is harsh, man. What do you give? Maybe was it Gordon?
Yes.
Gordon, maybe what would you give, some like Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
God.
Gotta be like a 3 then, right? Like, but as long as you're
we don't do numbers here.
As long as you're consistent, Gordon, that's all I gotta say. We don't, but Gordon does.
Good for you.
And I appreciate you writing it.
We also had a quick message from friend of the show, Bertie, who said he enjoyed it and thought it was very different from the normal Marvel stuff. He really liked the horror aspect, and he liked that all the trailers tricked you into thinking that Scarlet Witch may be a buddy.
Yeah, but now I'm just never going to believe anything they say. Because they do this all the time.
Never, ever, ever.
It's like Oppo.
Moving on from Doctor Strange. Friend of the show, Chris, messaged in and said he heard us talking the other day about movies that we hadn't seen that we should have.
Yes.
And I mentioned that I'd never seen Alien. And he says, you call yourself a geek.
It's fair.
He actually shouted at me.
It's a fair call.
And
Agreed.
we're going to have to do it for one of our upcoming segments.
I've already seen it so many times, I don't even need to rewatch it. I know
you
easily.
can be my guide into the movie Alien.
Yes, that's fine.
Fabulous. Thank you, friend of the show, Chris. We appreciate you picking up on some random nonsense that we said once on the show. And finally, thank you, friend of the show, Luke, who sent us a meme for the week. We're going to put this up on our Instagram. It's not technically a meme. It's a YouTube video. And it is effectively a great video of Timothée Chalamet being replaced by Elmo in the trailer for Dune.
What? That's actually...
It's actually
with the voice
funny.
And everything?
Yeah, it's actually pretty funny.
Dude, Timothée Chalamet, I actually saw a video of him, and who's the guy that's dating Kanye's ex-wife, Kim Kardashian?
I can't remember his name, but I know
you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. They did like a mumble rapper like skit, and it was actually fucking funny.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all again for sticking with it. DL, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, man. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for sending us a meme. Was it Luke who sent it? Thanks, Luke. We always love them. Give us a review on the pod. We do our best and our worst, all at the same time, usually. Yeah. And thanks, Lockie. You know the job.
Usually at the same time.
Yeah, mostly intertwined to each other. Lockie, you know the job. You know the assignment. You gotta get that story out there. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, DL.
And until next time, guys, have a good one.
Tally ho.
Tally ho.